So, Kenny the Jet Smith thinks JR's $50,000 fine was excessive. Stu, as former NBA executive vice president, do you think it was too high?
Well, with all due respect to Kenny, I think he is equating the $50,000 to the actual act of untying someone's shoes or attempting to untie someone's shoes. It's not about the act. That $50,000 was about the fact that J.R. Smith is a repeat offender.
Like this?
This is his fourth incident this year. If you add up the tweet that he sent, if you add up the drug suspension that he's had, and, you know, that's what the $50,000 is really about, is just sending a message to JR that you can't engage in this type of behavior if you're going to play basketball in this league.
Hey, Stu, I'm totally with you. Don't you think $50,000, though, was a lot, even though he's a repeat defender for that act? Well, you think that number was right?
I do, because if it's at $50,000, that means at the league office they were probably thinking about suspending him. And instead of suspending him, what they gave him was the maximal allowable amount of money that they can fine him. So in a twisted kind of way, JR might consider himself lucky.
You know, one thing I will say, I was telling you guys, my high school coach used to say, do not bring any attention to yourself if you're not playing well. Because I tried to wear a headband, I think, my sophomore year. He said, you're not playing well.
But you were getting buckets, right?
No, not my sophomore year. Not at all. So, but I think for JR, he was sixth man of the year last year. You know, he started off slow this year because of injuries. And also, let's understand your situation. The Knicks are not playing well. You cannot be a distraction when you're not playing well. For the Knicks organization, you never want to be a distraction. But if you're winning and you're in second or third place in the Eastern Conference, it's a little different. Right now, I will say the league got his attention, got my attention.
Yeah, yes, I mean, they did get his attention, and there are too many players in this league, Steve, that play by the rules and do the right thing and focus on what they want to focus on, which is their craft, and working hard and playing hard. And when you have someone like JR that continually engages in bad behavior, both on and off the floor, you're not only sending a message to JR, but you're reaffirming the behavior of all the other players that don't behave.
Now, Stu, let me ask you, if it was a player that first offense, say if that was his first offense, would the number still have been $50,000, you think?
Absolutely not. Okay, again, I repeat, this is as a result of the fact that JR is a recidivist, period. And they're trying to send him a message, as well as the other players in this league, that you can't engage in that type of behavior. And, you know, and listen, as an anecdote, listen, the guy did it. He was warned. He acknowledged that he was warned, and he still attempted to do it again. It's just like a slap in everybody's face.
Stu, I want to ask you, how much does personal history or league precedent come into play with a thing like this? In terms of, you just spoke about JR as a repeat offender and that kind of thing. What about league precedent as it pertains to fines?
Well, you don't have any precedent for untying someone's shoes. I don't know, Steve, if you've seen it. I've never seen this done before. But certainly if you're a first-time offender, sure, you're going to look at the history of fines of a like offense, although most of them are very different. If it's your first time, you may say, look, this is the baseline, this is what we fine them. But when you get into repeat offenses by the same player of different types of activity, that's where all bets are off. And as a player, you subject yourself to very punitive measures, which in this case, he got.
On the heels of the $50K fine, J.R. Smith did not play in Thursday's win over the Heat on TNT, and it was a coaching decision by Knicks head coach Mike Woodson. Let's hear what J.R. had to say in the locker room after the game.
I didn't know anything about it. I expected to do the same thing I always do my same routine, and it just didn't happen.
What has been the discussion with you, coach, or anyone since the actual fine came down?
There has been I think that's the most misleading part of it. I can see if I was told, but there was no conversation about it. So, but it is what it is. When you got the W.
Do you feel you've been the punishment of being fined that much money is enough, and that everyone should move on from this now?
I mean, my feelings obviously don't matter, so I'm just worried about the team.
How hard was it to sit there during a game like this with the teams playing well and crowded into it?
I mean, it's not that hard. We played great. If we were playing bad, I would feel some type of way, but the way we played, I can't have any complaints.
JR, do you still think that your future is here in New York? Do you believe that in your heart?
Honestly, I don't even know at this point. At one point I was for sure, and now it's rocking the boat. But it is what it is. It's the nature of the business.
Great last question there by Frank Isola of the New York Daily News. A friend of the network and ESPN.com reported earlier this week that the Knicks have explored the trade potential for J.R. Smith. So he is unsure about his future with the New York Knicks. Do you think his days are numbered as a Knick?
Well, I think the Knicks are definitely, like we said, we hear the rumors that they're exploring. It comes down to it being a distraction, but also understanding when a coach decides not to play you and you're in a rotation, you're 6th man of the year last year, and if you've been playing and they get a W, not only do they get a W, they beat the Miami Heat without you. That's when you start to got to look in the mirror. You should look in the mirror all the time, but I think a player like in J.R. Smith's case, start to understand you're a distraction, and when I don't play you, we still win a big game. It magnifies a team saying we can move on without you. And, you know, yes, you can get traded. But I think the one thing for J.R. Smith you got to understand is you were not in this league. You were in Europe a couple years ago. He's talented enough to be in this league. He was talented enough to win 6th man of the year. He even has talent of one day being an all-star. But it doesn't matter how much talent you have. It's how much you can be on this team, be a part of the team concept.
Yeah, I couldn't have articulated it better. Everyone talked today about the statement that Coach Woodson made with respect to benching JR, which was a great statement and he should be applauded. But how about the statement that the players made because they knew he wasn't going to play, that they made in putting forth the effort in beating the Miami Heat? I thought it was just a tremendous, tremendous statement, and again, will make JR look at himself and say, you know, really, what am I doing?